that I started a new series. It's called The Alchemy of the Wound. So I don't think you guys were able to hear that. And it's something that's been resonating with me for a little bit, and it follows the series She Who Remembers. So if you're tuning in, and I apologize that you couldn't hear me, my name is Wendy Mooney-Smith, and I'm the owner of Mångata, Muse, and the Spiritual Soul Boutique. I'm a sound healer, I'm a Reiki practitioner, I'm a yoga instructor, and we offer all sorts of classes here to help you become your best you, moving you through whatever healing you need to have happen. And yes, I have Miss Indy here visiting with me. She's my new little kitten here. She found me in the woods. We were going to foster her, but I think she's supposed to be mine. So this series that we're talking about is a transformation of emotion. It's the kind of sacred transformation that doesn't bypass the pain, but actually honors it. It's the kind that asks us if our deepest wounds were the doorway to our truest self. So what if these deep wounds were the way to our deepest selves? So today we're going to begin our journey with a theme that touches all of us at some point in our life, and that is about grief. So when we think of grief, I think it's important to discuss that grief is, yes, we experience grief with the loss of a loved one, but it also can be other forms, an other sense of loss. Like the grief of who we used to be, the grief of dreams that never took place or never took root, and the grief of being misunderstood or not seen. So that is what we're going to talk about today. She's chasing the smoke. So hopefully we'll lighten the conversation a little bit with this entertainment here. But it is a serious topic. So thank you for joining me today. And let's take a deep breath and begin by understanding, what is grief? Grief is often described as a process. We talk about the 5 stages. But for me, I think it's more of a landscape. It's not linear, it's not tidy. It doesn't happen in these 5 stages of process. Oh, you're at this process, you're at this process. Sometimes it comes in like a tidal wave and just wipes you out, right? And I think that's what we expect most people when experiencing loss to move through when you think about grief. But sometimes it's more of a trickle that just kind of comes in bit by bit, piece by piece. Sometimes it's a fog that looms over our heads, and you just see it there, and you're just waiting for it to drop and completely envelop you. Grief, we think, is an emotion, right? This grief that's looming over us, washing over us. But actually, many times it lives in the body. When we do healings, we work a lot with people that experience grief, and we treat their heart chakras, not necessarily because of the heart itself, but because it actually rests on top of your lungs. Grief will rest on top of your lungs. And that way, it can also show up, since it's on your lungs, in your breath. It can show up in your shoulders. It's a feeling. We can feel in our gut. We know how it makes us feel sick to our stomach. And grief can look like tears, but it can look also and feel like numbness, fatigue, or even rage. Sometimes we see people and we say, you know, they're grieving a loss of a loved one, and that maybe they're not behaving in the way that we would behave. But that's because it will hit them when it is their time to deal with that and process that. Sometimes it's after the dust settles of experience the loss of a loved one and experience an acknowledgement. And in the world we live in, many times we're encouraged to get over things so quickly. Get over it. You'll deal with it. Stay positive. Move on. And this is not what we are meant to do. You are meant to move through grief in your own process. Don't let anybody tell you you need to adhere to this, that, or the other thing. Hi, Pat. Thank you for joining. But in this space, when we do talk about grief, as I said, don't let society push you through it. We are not rushing healing. We are not fixing. We are merely listening. We're here to help you move through grief at whatever rate, speed, process you need to move through. Because grief, when witnessed and tended to with compassion, can become one of the most sacred gateways to grace. Yes, look at her looking at me. So when I talk about the alchemy, what am I talking about? What does that mean? Spiritually speaking is how we are applying it, but alchemy is the ancient art of turning base metal into gold. So when we're talking about alchemy of the wound, we are taking those emotions and turning them sacredly into gold, if you will. So for us, we're talking about it as the transformation of something painful, raw, and unresolved. We're taking that and transferring it into wisdom, compassion, and strength. In the context of grief, alchemy happens not by denying the pain, but by being with it, softening it, and eventually allowing it to open something within us. Grace is not a reward. Let's be clear about that. Grace is what rushes in when we stop fighting the truth of what is. Grief invites us to slow down, to feel, to listen. And in grief, we meet parts of ourselves we may have forgotten: our tenderness, our vulnerability, our longing. And from that space, something will eventually begin to shift. Not in a way that says, I'm over it, because honestly, when we lose somebody in that sense, whether it is a relationship or an actual physical loss of life, we don't want you to necessarily get over it. That's not what it's about. That person's memory is going to be embedded in your heart and in your soul. But we're saying that we want you to move through it and shift in a way that says, I carry this differently now, with softness, with reverence. So I want to share with you my story of grief. About 10 years ago, I lost my brother, Tim. I lost him to addiction. And I was angry. And I never cried over losing him. Because honestly, Tim created a lot of conflict in the family, as well as a lot of hardship. His addiction took a financial burden on the family, and it actually created some boundaries with and some decisiveness within. Is that the word I'm looking for? Some division within my family. And it was really tough, and we really honestly didn't talk about it. And I didn't cry. We didn't have a service for him. We didn't have a memorial for him. My parents, I think, were embarrassed by the addiction factor. And so Tim was cremated, and there was never really a process to get through it. And it took a profound experience for me to actually move through and mourn and grieve my brother. During my Reiki 2 ignition, I had a moment of profound awakening. Tim's face came across my mind, and he said, everything's okay in that moment. It was like a dam burst open. It was. And I just started sobbing uncontrollably. I'm in this class and I'm sobbing and I can't control it. It just all came out. And this is years later. Tim died about 10 years ago. So this was about three years ago. So 7 years maybe. I hadn't thought of my brother. It's just like anger all the time. I never grieved my brother. And then in this moment, it was a dam that burst open. And then everything was going to be okay. He said it in my vision. He said it. in my heart, I knew that I could finally be at peace and let him go. And then this carried over later on with my mom. I lost my mom in October. And I had already found sound healing and I'd already found meditation at that point. And so I was able to grieve the loss of my mother, who also succumbed to her addiction issues. It was rough, seeing her suffer in that way and what addiction does. And it's easy to be angry because of what it leaves for those of us trying to help them get through it. But when I lost my mom because of what happened with my brother, I was able to move through the process a little more readily. And yes, I missed her every day. But through the continued practice of yoga, sound, breath work, meditation, stillness, I was able to alchemize that. So I want to tell you the same is true, because we say grief is not always just about death and dying. It can be about the loss of a relationship, whether it be a longtime friend, a partner, someone you cared for, someone you loved. Sometimes challenges in our life occur that cause disruptions in the relationship, and we may no longer share the same beliefs, and that's okay. If you don't share the same beliefs, the same construct, the same ideas, and sometimes we realize in that relationship that there's no longer an equal exchange of energy. And one will drift away to protect their boundaries. And that's all okay. But you still experience grief with it. And just as you were ending a life, you're experiencing this relationship. Hi, thank you for joining. I see you on there. Hi, honey. There can be grief with a relationship. And also there can be grief with a lifestyle change. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people through my family's experience with addiction. I've worked with others struggling from addiction issues. And addiction is more than a habit. It is a lifestyle. It's an identity. It's a coping mechanism, a shield. So letting go means grieving the person that you were during the addiction. It's an escape. It's the story that you told yourself. So you're now giving up your story. The story that you told yourself to survive is now no longer needed. So often there is a sacred grief that arises in the process of recovery, not just from substances. It's also from the patterns, the relationships, and the belief that you kept numb. But you can heal and move past this pain that feels relentless and heartless and endless. Because in most cases, grief does not resolve itself all at once. But one day you will notice that you will be able to breathe a little easier. You will notice that grief doesn't disappear, but it changes shape. It becomes a guide. It helps you deal with life's challenges a little bit differently, a little more gracefully. So how do we practice alchemizing the grief? How do we turn this grief into grace? Well, a few ways that I have found very powerful and helping is the first one, ritual. No one realizes the power of a candle and the profound power that lighting the candle with intention can have. In this instance, you can light a candle and speak the name, offer a flower, write a little note. Ritual gives grief form, and form gives us something to hold. Maybe write a letter and burn it under a full moon to help you release some of the pain that is weighing you down. We got a full moon on Saturday. Breath work and meditation, gentle, intentional breathing is so powerful. Even just taking 3 breaths. What does that mean? 3 mindful, exhaled, focused breaths can create space in the chest where our grief rests. Meditation helps you make space, right? Sorry, I'm struggling here with just a moment with this little one. See, I told you she was wanting to jump. So it makes space for what is. Meditation gives us permission to sit with what we usually run from. In the stillness, we learn to hold grief without judgment. We become witness rather than the reactor. This shift is subtle, but it can be powerful. It is where this alchemy is allowed to begin. Through guided meditation, breath awareness, and mindful presence, we can create our own inner sanctuary in a space where grief is no longer something to fix or flee. It becomes something to honor, soften into, and eventually integrate. And meditation teaches us that grace is not something we earn, it is something we remember. Journaling, especially after a meditation, some great journal prompts like, what am I grieving that I haven't named? What have I lost that it shaped me into who I am? What would grace say to my grief? Restorative yoga, we offer that, especially child's pose, heart openers, hip openers. We carry a lot of stress in our hips. And as I said, grief rests on top of the lungs. So these heart openers are profound. They help you move through the landscapes of loss. Grief is stored deep in the tissues. Like I said, it's not just an emotion. It coils into the shoulders, tightens the jaw, and weighs down the hips. Yoga offers a compassionate way to move through grief, literally and metaphorically. Gentle flow helps unlock stuck energy. Yin poses help to support and surrender. Heart openers invite courage. Hip openers often bring in the tears. I know I've done a lot of yin yoga where I was opening up those hips and I just started crying. I'm like, what is happening? So it helps us move through some of these battlefields and escape to a home that we can return to. It doesn't ask us to bypass grief. It just simply helps us to carry it differently. And then, of course, through sound healing. The vibrations help bypass the logical mind and move through the emotion. It helps the emotion just move through the body, through that vibration, because it does. It can get stuck. Grief can get stuck within us. Sound helps us move it out. Many of our clients, when moving through grief during a session, will just start crying uncontrollably, and that's okay. We want them to. The same is true for those that have come to help work with their addiction. They will just start crying. They're in rehab, they're in recovery, and that dam bursts open and a flood of emotion will pour out of them, and it allows them to face the fact that they are not their addiction. They are not defined by that. That is not who they are. Sound healing helps release that it helps to release that words cannot get to. And grief doesn't just live in the mind, as I remind you, it lives in the body. It echoes in the body, in the nervous system, and in our subtle energy fields. Sound healing passes language and thoughts, and it reaches the parts of us that feel too tender or too overwhelmed to speak. And the vibration of the crystal singing bowls, all the chimes, the harmonic tones, they release and coax that stagnant emotion to the surface for a safe release. In sound healing, the body is bathed in frequency. This helps to regulate that nervous system. It lowers stress hormones that are stored, as I mentioned, we have that stress in our hips. It opens energetic blockages caused by unresolved grief. It creates space for breath, for softness, and for grace to enter. So that is how we can alchemize our grief, whether it's the loss of a job, the loss of a relationship, the loss of a dream, the loss of an idea, and the loss of a loved one through death, through passing on. So in closing, I want you guys to remember a couple of things here. First, that if you take anything away from today's session, let it be that we may remember that grief is not the end of a story. It is part of a sacred path. And when met with care, it can soften into grace. 2, your addiction does not define you. Remember that if you are suffering for any sort of addiction, it does not define you, and I am here to help you move through it. So I want to say thank you for being here today. If this touched something within you, let it be a seed. Remember, there is no rush to fix or to heal, to just be. Just be with what is. So a few announcements. Yoga Nidra has now moved to Wednesdays from 6 to 7. We have class tonight. If you're still interested, I have spots open. If you can't sign up on the Mind Body app, just message me. We'll make space for you. There's plenty of room. Group sound healing is moved to Fridays at 5, since we are now having live Yoga Nidra classes. Yin Yoga, a 75-minute session, is this Saturday at 9:30. Spots still available for that. And the children's sound bath is at 11:15. It's $15 for the half-hour session. And that is the admission for both an adult and a child. So your parents get a sound bath too if this is something you're interested in. The full moon sound bath and guided meditation with Katrina Elder is this Saturday from 6 to 7. And there's still a few spots available, but usually we sell out. And I'm very, very excited to welcome Miss Hannah Gamble. She is the owner of the Iron Furnace. Hannah is going to be a new instructor here at Mångata Muse. She starts in September. So welcome, Hannah. She's going to be offering some new classes for us. She's a wonderful human, and I'm very excited and I'm honored that she wants to teach here. So let's give her a big welcome. Watch out for our new podcast that's coming out. Our first episode is on Thursday, August 21st, 3 Lights and a Mic. Our first session will be Beyond the Sirens, the echoes after the call. And it's a candid discussion with healing for our first responders. Mandy Keener of AR Creations, Katrina Elder, and myself are going to discuss how alternative healing can help our first responders deal with the trauma that they deal with every day, that they have to take this home with them. And finally, in alignment with the Last of the Light sale here in the shop, join me for our monthly 90-minute session. It's a sound bath and Reiki session, and it's at 4:30 on the 23rd of August. While the sun still lingers, come catch the glow. Spaces are limited. And before you know it, October is going to be here. So watch for details. We have some exciting things happening. It is our season, is it not? Our witching season. So we are having the Ravens Rave this year. I'm super excited about that. The Witch Walk and other fun events. So pay attention to my Facebook, my Instagram, my TikTok, my YouTube, and of course you can always go to my website, mångata.muse.com. So next week we will continue our series with turning anger into boundaries. And until then, may your heart be tender, may your breath be steady, and may your grief know the way home. Sorry so much about the technical difficulties, and thank you for hanging with me. I know we're 8 minutes over because of the technical difficulties. I will cut this, and we will start from the beginning out on the YouTube. All right, guys. Thank you, Jody, for joining. Thank you for watching. I am so appreciative for each of you. I will see you all here next Wednesday if I don't see you in class before then. I love you all. Bye, guys.